Theo, I wanted to record a video because over the last 3 weeks I've learned a lot of how to interact with people, a lot about myself, a lot of things that I'm doing that are kind of going wrong, counterproductive for relationships. And one of the things that I always want to be doing is improving. And because I firmly believe that the meaning of man, the definition of masculinity, I get this from the Coach for America, Joe Ehrman, and the book Season of Life by, I think, Jeffrey or Jeremy Maxwell. He said that what a man is and what a man does is have the ability to build and sustain meaningful relationships. The world tells you that it's about the billfold, the ball field, and the bedroom, or athletic ability, financial success, or sexual conquest. And that's why all the commercials glamorize those kind of things, having all the money, having all the women, and having all the things and toys and muscles. But what it really means to be a man is to be able to build relationships with other people and then sustain those relationships. That's why we were created. God, out of the overflow of his relationship in the Trinity, wanted to make man to have a relationship. And then he saw that it wasn't good for man to be by himself, to be alone. So he gave him a woman in order to have a relationship with and then be fruitful and multiply. So my name means man. And I like to live up to my name. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be a terrible man, meaning that I don't want to be terrible at building relationships. I don't want to be terrible at sustaining relationships. And yet, over the last couple years, over the last couple weeks in particular, there's been some relationships that took a nosedive. Most importantly, my relationship with my brother David. Over the last 5 years since my dad died, it will be 5 years next month, almost exactly a month from today. He died and left behind our family without really a good understanding of what he wanted. And so the last 5 years has been us trying to figure out, what did Dad want, and arguing about what Dad wanted, unfortunately. And so, that relationship has been strained. I used to have a really good relationship with my brother David, and now it is non-existent. So I didn't do a very good job of being a man in that relationship. I didn't do a good job of continuing to build it and continuing to sustain it. I let it die, basically. So I'm reflecting on that and kind of how that happened and applying a lot of these things that I've learned. And I recorded a message to my brother on Boxer as I was finishing up a jog. And what I wanted to do is play it at 3x and listen to it and then pause it and kind of interject, because I wanted to capture this and I wanted to share this. And if I just share the Boxer message, then it probably won't be as clear, because there's no narration, there's no background on it. That's why I'm giving this little introduction in order to help. And I've finally got a quiet moment. Shiloh's sleeping, Maria is out, and Boaz is downstairs. And so Gideon's still at school, at least for another 55 minutes. So I got time to record this video as quickly as possible and kind of encapsulate all of this so it is captured, and then share it with a couple of men in my band of brothers, because one of the examples is a relationship that had been 3 years and just kind of fell apart because of a silly thing, which I described in this message. And doing the forensics on it, in the military we would have a mishap or something, and you do forensic analysis to figure out why the mishap happened, or if something got lost or somebody made a mistake, you figure out, were they not trained, did something break, and how could we have caught that to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So that's what I've been doing the last 3 weeks on this little conflict, is figuring out the forensics, what exactly went wrong and what could I have done better. And one of the main takeaways is that, and I'll say it in here, is that I take positions that threaten other people's positions. And because of what I've learned in cognitive behavioral therapy, there's a list of threats that face us. Some threaten us more than others. This is my workshop, and as I listen to this, I'll try to find where the workshop, it's the other folder actually, this is something else, where that comes in. And because those threats cause us to go into fight, flight, feign, or freeze, usually fight or flight, we go to the area of our brain that doesn't think rationally, and basically the prefrontal cortex like shuts down. And that's my main takeaway, is that threatening posture that I take and threaten people's understanding or identity or whatever causes them to get defensive and to stop rationally thinking. And one of the things they do, because they're defensive, is they make counterattacks, and then that makes me feel threatened, and when I'm threatened, my prefrontal cortex shuts down. And because I don't want to not be able to think rationally, I don't want to cause somebody else to not think rationally. And it has applications in the home, with children, and with wife. And so let me hit play on this as I go back to the messages that I sent my brother, and I'll play it a little bit faster than I say, so it's not a whole 15 minutes. This is 3x. I need to stop.
It's like, I was talking with my friend yesterday, and he's a reasonable guy, but he's like not necessarily agreeing with me all the time, and I like it when people are disagreeable. And what I told him is that I'm a little bit prone to disagree, just because I have this view of the maxim, what's popular is not always right, what's right is not always popular. I take that a little bit, maybe over literally, and I have a tendency to push back on anything that is in the mainstream where everybody agrees with. I'll put this up here. That'll work. There was a video that old mentor of mine, he's in the 70s, shared yesterday. It was by Trace Atkins. It was this country music song about being Semper Fi, about Marines being faithful and doing the right thing and everything so that people can be safe at home. And it was put out like 5-6 years ago. And all the comments are like, oh, I love the Marine Corps, my son just went in the Marine Corps, God bless the Marines, nobody doesn't like them, or whatever. And then there was like Army people in there. My dad was in the Army in World War II, all this stuff, right? So my take, the comment that I made was that Marines who hear this song today, it will sound, to those Marines, it'll sound a lot different than it sounded 3 or 4 years ago. So that's my take. It's like, everybody's celebrating this, hoorah, Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps has become a Marxist, communist organization that, eats its own and kicks out people who want to exercise their First Amendment rights. And so I take a little bit of a contrary view than most people, maybe partly because what's popular is always right, what's right always popular, but also, I also take the view of, if everybody agrees, then only one person is necessary. Any kind of group or any kind, and one of the things that's great about our relationship is we don't agree with each other all the time. We've disagreed about the state of the market for, like the last year, It's like, I've perpetually been cautiously optimistic.
I'm going to go on a little tangent here and talk about the example of me and my brother. This is to my oldest brother, how we disagree on certain things at certain times, and how it's healthy and how it's good. And because we don't feel threatened by each other's disagreement, it's actually, beneficial. I'll fast forward just a little bit because I kind of go on a significant tangent there, talking to him about it.
Perpetually, so, actually, dogmatically bearish, with making me optimistically bearish. You're trying to make money off of the bearish moves and stuff, and I'm kind of like, well, this is easier to make money on the
yeah, so my brother's been kind of bearish in his view of the market. I've been kind of optimistic about the market, and we benefit each other because we don't agree. So that was the point.
There's all these people with orders that said 13,000, 12,000, 8,000, and they've got enough cash on hand to basically arrest the price at that level.
So I'm still talking about the market, so I tried to fast forward that.
I don't think Mike Zimmer's ever concealed his. Now I guess it could be liquidated, margin call, or whatever, but it seems like he's able to just continue to, he's got a viable business, a stable income from the services that
I do a bad job of going off on tangents, but I'll come back to the point of the value of disagreeing in a second.
Anything can happen, So,
and then I'll switch it down to 2x.
They're definitely not going to get bailed out by the banks like AIG was, but even Lehman Brothers wasn't bailed out. So, anywho, I guess that's it. I don't know if there's anything else that I need to comment on.
Now I'm going back to it.
I went down a rabbit trail because I started talking about my conversation with Duff and why I, kind of disagree. Let me finish that thread real quick.
Finish that thread.
I dovetailed off of, disagreeing with each other and the fact that we get along because we don't see eye to eye. And therefore, we're necessary to each other because we don't agree all the time. If we always agreed, then, I guess we'd be happy because we always agreed, but we wouldn't make any progress, right? So I also take a little bit of a radical view on the reasonable person conforms to the world, but the unreasonable man demands that the world conform to him, and therefore any progress, any change in the world depends on people who are unreasonable because they're trying to make the world change. And so you combine the three of those of what's popular is not always right, what's right is always popular, reasonable man conforming, non-reasonable man not conforming, and whatever the third one was that I just said. If we all agree, then only one of us is necessary. You combine all three of those, and when somebody complains in a group about there being distractions,
this is
and then,
the minor issue.
Two other guys out of the five, one guy hadn't chimed in yet, but two of the other guys say, "Oh yeah, I agree. There's too many distractions." It actually
another rabbit trail. Football.
Couple weeks was I knew they were going to lose, but I just thought it would be fun to see if the underdog won. Right? So actually, I don't even know if they beat the Titans or if they lost to the Titans.
And then I go talk about whether they
played
the Titans or the Colts.
Last game, but I think it was the Titans.
I'm pretty sure it was the Colts.
No, it was Colts. Pretty sure. So, for a guy like Paul, the older guy who is old and just he's disagreed with people probably his whole life, and he's just at the point where he would rather agree with somebody than disagree with him. He's going to take a position that removes the conflict. Rather than continuing the conflict, he wants to remove the conflict. I want to resolve the conflict because I think that we can both grow. But you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and he's an old dog, and he's very anti-crypto. When crypto went from $3,000 in the coronavirus crash, which we were in the crypto, to $30,000.
So then I go into talking about previous disagreements that I've had with this older guy, and kind of how my pushback hasn't been welcomed by him. The way I'm wired to kind of be a contrarian isn't necessarily beneficial to relationships from times. So I kind of go on and on about that disagreement. Yeah, this is the key part.
The views that I maintain, a lot of times because I'm a bit of a contrarian, are very uncomfortable for people, especially the people who desire comfort, desire the status quo, desire a lack of conflict, desire peace. My words are anathema to them, to use a scholarly theologically word. It just goes against everything. The people who want Christians to be winsome and kind and win souls and think that because I'm rude, people are going to go to hell because they're not going to listen to the gospel. Those kind of people don't like what I have to say. They really don't like how I say it, because I like to say things in a way that engages more than the mind.
This is the key part too.
Emotions. I love engaging both mind and emotions, because if the mind and the emotions are engaged, the will is more likely to be engaged. And if the will is not engaged, then no change is going to be made because nobody's going to want to do anything different. And so that's just everything that I've learned in the last 3 weeks has shown me that if I want to preserve the relationship at all costs and let somebody like my friend Matt, who totally dogged Bitcoin in the summer.
Another little example is another friend of mine who was not interested at all in what I had to say about cryptocurrency in 2017. And what I say is that I could have really beat him over the head and been like, man, you're so stupid for not investing in 2020 when it went all the way up to $30,000. But that would have risked the relationship. That would have been unwise for me to do. And I didn't do it because I valued the relationship more than I valued being right. And that's probably one of the most crucial lessons in all of this, is that if I value the relationship, then I'm willing to let the other person win an argument. And or just not argue. But I guess I don't need to play that much more of it. There was a bit more. Let's see if
misunderstanding of me. And the other thing that I really learned is really important is that
there is another thing.
When somebody else is threatened, then they go into fight, flight, or freeze. If they choose fight or even freeze, that can come across as threatening to me.
Talking about
obviously, when somebody fights back,
at the beginning,
and then I go into fight or flight, and I don't want to go into fight or flight because I want my prefrontal cortex to be operating at maximum capacity. And when I go into fight or flight, my prefrontal cortex shuts down. So I don't want to cause somebody else to go into fight or flight, because if they go into fight, they're going to cause me to go into fight or flight because they're threatening me. And so it comes full circle, and I can really apply this to not just relationships in Christian brotherhoods, but also my relationship with my wife, because that's what happens between us, is we cause each other to feel threatened, and then we go into fight or flight, which threatens the other person. So, and usually that first threatening is not intentional. I never want my wife to feel threatened by me, but it's almost at least a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, that I will do something or say something which makes her feel threatened.
That's where I want to come to this.
Yeah,
so, it'd be good to bring in the ways threats come across, what people perceive as being threatened, or one of the things. So self-esteem. That's an area that somebody could be threatened. Let me just read them all. Autonomy, not being able to do what they want. Like when my brother, I'll give another, well, I'm not going to play this anymore. I'm just going to talk. But one of the things, the big conflict with my brother was a year and a half ago, and he wrote me a message saying, don't contact me anymore. That threatened my autonomy. He's telling me not to do something, and I responded pretty harshly. I can do what I want. I'm going to reach out to you whenever I want to reach out to you. And what does he do? He feels threatened because his autonomy or what he wants, there's probably like comfort is another area there, believes control. His control is threatened, so he wants to control what shows up in his inbox by telling me not to send him anything. I want to be able to send him whatever I want to send him. He tells me not to send something. I tell him, because I'm threatened, if I take a step back, I'm like, okay, my brother feels threatened. What did I do to threaten him? And why? And therefore his prefrontal cortex is shut down right now. He's being unreasonable. And it is somewhat of an unreasonable request to say, never contact me again. It is kind of unreasonable. Hey, we're both Christians. We're brothers. Like, I can't wish you a happy birthday. Like, I can't send you a text when Boaz wins a gymnastics meet and kind of brag about my son. Like, I can't do that. It's irrational. But that's the only thing that you can do when you're threatened in fight or flight is stuff that's irrational. It's stuff to, fight back. And because I feel threatened, I write back, I'm going to contact you whenever. Is that rational? Is it rational to overstep out? Like, somebody's trying to be defensive and they don't want to hear from you. Is it rational just to be like, no, I'm not going to do whatever you want? Not really. It would be more rational, if you care about the relationship and preserving the relationship, to say, okay, well, let me know. I won't contact you until you say, hey, I want to talk to you. So the ball will be in your court forever. Maybe we'll talk to each other in heaven. But if you feel like hearing from me before we both get to heaven, then let me know. That would be kind of more rational, I think. So here, I'll go through a bunch. There's like 40 things on this list, but the career could be threatened, somebody's job, comfort, confidence. So if somebody says you suck at something and you thought you were confident about it, that puts you in fight or flight. Control, I already mentioned. Fairness. So that gets threatened all the time these days. Your faith, your family, your finances. So something that, you lose money. So that puts you out of fight or flight. In the cognitive behavioral workshop I went through, it was the meadow is the green area, and then the fight is the volcano, so you blow up, and the flight is an iceberg, so you shut down and you're cold. Identity, independence, innocence. Independence is kind of like autonomy or control. Integrity, intimacy, life, mood, peace. Something threatens my peace, or mood. It just puts me in a bad mood. Your power, your pride, your privacy, your purpose, relationships, reputation, your respect. I get no respect. You do the Rodney Dangerfield. You're not in the meadow. You are downstairs in the fight or flight. Safety, security, self-esteem, self-worth, trust, values, well-being, and worldview. So, this stuff, it's just so helpful for me to realize that my disposition can be, and probably everybody's, probably not just me, but it can be threatening to other people. And when they feel threatened by my views or how I'm talking about something, they're going to threaten me back. Or they're going to make me feel threatened. They're not going to, I'm using this word threatened to talk about these activators, and not like, I'm going to punch you in the face. Obviously that's a threat, but don't email me anymore. Doesn't seem to be a threat, but it's threatening. And hopefully that makes sense. It's helpful for me to process this. I was listening to Jordan Peterson, listen to this before 2023, and he talks about how he was just sharing his things that he was processing mentally. He was verbally processing it for a camera, and it was very, very beneficial to him, and other people benefited from it as well. So that's what I'm doing here now. I'm so thankful for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, even though I've been given the green light and set free from the Band of Brothers group. We had accountability for 3 years, and now I'm going to make my own groups and lead other guys who need that kind of daily accountability. And so it's a closing of a chapter. I felt like our relationship, all relationships are either or both. A reason, you're in the relationship for a reason, you're in the relationship for a season, or you're in the relationship for a lifetime. And it can be a both and. Like, you can have a reason for a relationship, you can have a season for a relationship, and you have a lifetime for a relationship. And I'll give two examples. One is the marital relationship. That's a lifetime. It's supposed to be a lifetime relationship. Sometimes it ends. Hey, some people get remarried. So there was a season that ended, and then a new season began. And so it's all three. The reason, be fruitful and multiply, God's command. A season, unfortunately, the season ended because of conflict, and they couldn't solve it, so they got divorced. But then, because it's a relationship for a lifetime, they get remarried, and I got a pretty good friend that went through that, and my brother has a friend that seems to be going through that too. That's best case scenario. Well, best case scenario for a marriage relationship is it's a reason and it's for a lifetime, and it's not just a season. But there are seasons in the marital relationship, seasons that are really, really good, and then seasons where you have a lot of conflict. Another one is, I had a friend who, we were roommates in Iraq, and we were friends for a reason, because we were helping each other become better pilots. He was senior to me, but it was also a season where he left the squadron before I did, and so we lost touch. But then the season started again, and we got back in touch. And I think it's kind of a lifetime friendship, because in the lifetime friendships are those where if you have an opportunity to re-engage, then you do re-engage. And I think, if we ever moved up to Pennsylvania or something like that, we were near them, we'd probably spend holidays together. That would be kind of a lifetime relationship. Man, I've already gone over 20 minutes on this one. Hopefully it saves my phone. But I was kind of done, but that was another kind of lesson that I've been praying about, meditating on, with respect to this kind of an altercation with men in the band of brothers about something that was very trivial. The last thing that I will share, since I might as well make it a full podcast, is I will listen to this message on reconciliation again, because I think that this is really good. It's called A Biblical Pattern of Reconciliation. It was by Dr. Harold J. Sala in Guidelines for Living, from Matthew 5:23 and 24, and I'll just let it play. If you've gotten everything that you wanted out of this video, then fine. I think I'm going to make this one public, one of my first videos that's actually public on the USMC Ministry channel on YouTube, and then I'll post it on both the Signal channels and share it with some of my brothers. But I already shared this with my oldest brother, and that boxer message was to my oldest brother, and I already talked to one of my band of brothers former group about it, and I sent this to him and talked to him about it a little bit more. So it's probably good for me to read again, listen to it again, and I might as well tack it on to the end of this video. But it's kind of boring to watch a video where somebody's listening to something, and so I'm just going to allow you guys to click off of this video before it goes. So here it is, and it has this fancy introductory music. It's 7 years old.
Take a break from your busy schedule and join Harold Sala for Guidelines, a 5-minute commentary on living.
5-minute commentary on living.
Your friendship is free of conflict. The history of humanity is an ongoing story of disagreements which often start over trivial, unimportant issues,
There we go.
but escalate to open warfare, where battle lines are drawn and people fight to their deaths. Unfortunately, when people marry, they often do the same thing. Trivial misunderstandings and disappointments begin to snowball. And not knowing how to deal with conflict, couples allow the disagreements to escalate. Conflict grows fight by fight until differences are irreconcilable. It may be academic, yet it's true. Conflicts are not new. The Bible is full of stories of individuals who didn't agree. Cain killed his brother. Jacob cheated his brother out of his birthright. Miriam didn't like her brother Moses getting all the glory in his battle with Pharaoh. The disciples were annoyed that the mother of James and John asked Jesus if they might not be his first lieutenants, sitting at his right hand. And Paul said that he withstood Peter to the face because he would have a meal with Gentiles when no Jews were around. But when he had the company of his brothers, he stuck to kosher dills and matzo ball soup and ignored his Gentile brothers. Okay, we know that there's plenty of conflict, but how do we deal with it? There are biblical models that provide the only real principles and keys to reconciliation. And believe it or not, these are the same principles that successful secular counselors and diplomats follow today, no matter what they believe about God. The story of Joseph, the lad who was sold into Egypt, provides a beautiful picture of what restoration and forgiveness are about. Jacob, having fled for his life, some 14 years later decided to go home and had to pass through the country or the land controlled by his brother. He first struggled with the Lord over the issue, and with the assurance of God's help, made restitution for his wrongs, finding acceptance, if not forgiveness, from his brother. Peter recognized that he was inconsistent and responded to Paul's criticism. The issue was settled. In capsule form, here is the biblical model for reconciliation when conflict tears you apart. Step number 1, confront the person who offended you. Attitude is everything. When you approach the issue with humility, your adversary is disarmed. Saying, I value your friendship and I don't want to see this issue tear us apart, goes further than saying, look, you, which is inflammatory and combative. Step 2, confess your wrongdoing. But I haven't done anything. Possibly, but not likely. Have you told your husband that you love him and want him back, I often ask? Well, he knows that. Not enough. Say it. Write it. Get the message across. Step 3, be willing to compromise. Negotiation and compromise are 2 keys to conflict resolution. Marriage is one big I do, with a lot of little uh-huhs.
I like that.
Dogmatic and flexible individuals who can't bend should never marry. But if they do, they've got to learn to bend, otherwise the pressure causes the strongest to break. Step 4, be quick to forgive and forget. Forgiveness means I give up my right to hurt you because you hurt me. I fully understand some things may be etched in your memory for the rest of your life. But if you can refuse to let the record be written in blood, you can win. With God's help and His grace, you can learn compassion, tenderness, and experience His healing. If I had only known how to pray, said one woman. Yes, it's never too late to learn.
And then the fancy music on the way out. So I thought that was really good. I can maybe put this in the comments section of the video that I upload, so you guys can listen to it without. my wife was here. She was talking. I don't know how much of the background that caught, but yeah. I'm overjoyed. A lot of times I think when I learn a lesson like this, I wish I would have learned it sooner. But a lot of times, we're not ready to learn the lesson until we learn it. So I guess this was one of those. So, but I'm also thankful that I didn't learn the lesson later. So there's a flip side. All right, almost 30 minutes. Try not to focus too much on the time. We'll see if if I have another eureka moment like this, maybe I'll hop on here and share it. This was kind of mostly for me, like Jordan Peterson was doing his thing, and now I can go back and listen to it, kind of like I did with my Boxer message, and listen to that again at 2x on YouTube. So, and if you guys listen to this at 2x, it only took 15 minutes instead of 30. God bless. I pray that anybody who is able to spend time on this, that the lesson will be that go down deep, and it would really positively impact your life as well, and that the conflicts that arise, you'll be able to analyze and identify the threat that started the conflict, both that you caused and that you received, and then be able to neutralize that threat so that it's less threatening, and it doesn't cause you to go into fight or flight. It doesn't cause your prefrontal cortex to shut down, and you can actually apply those 4 steps or 5 steps that the good doctor talked about in his steps to biblical reconciliation. Pray that in Jesus' name.